weakening retail sales, grim quarterly earnings at Beyond Meat, and some high-profile bankruptcies have prompted intense debate about the future of meat alternatives. Now, as a private company, Impossible Foods isn't subject to the same kind of scrutiny as Beyond Meat, but with some commentators now questioning whether we've already hit peak alt meat, Impossible Foods is under pressure to deliver. Against this backdrop, I'm delighted to welcome Impossible Foods Chief Executive and President, Peter McGuinness. Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Elaine.
Excellent. Well, let's get started just with an update on how Impossible is actually performing, in the US retail market to begin with, and then at some of these key food service accounts that you're in.
We're doing well. I mean, that was quite a grim intro, but look, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend, everything's perfect. The category has its challenges. We have our challenges. Our competition has its challenges. With the 52-week Nielsen, we're still growing, high single-digit, low double-digit growth in retail, which is great. We have 50% repeat. So 1 in 2 we get, every 2 people we get to try our product, 1 repeats, which is quite strong. And we get that same aha moment was it tastes much better than we thought. Now, I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment. I'll just take it as a compliment.
Sure.
And you get that pretty high repeat. So this is a trial. Look, we have 15% household awareness. 85% of the country hasn't heard of us. You can't buy what you haven't heard of. And so as we did our first ever marketing campaign in June and July, first ever in 11 years. That doesn't happen overnight. You know how that works. Paid, earned, owned media takes time to build and ramp. But awareness leads to trial. Trial leads to repeat. It's a natural progression. We just hadn't focused on it yet. We were young and we didn't need to do it. And now we do need to do it. So the one thing I want to say is we need to demand create. The whole notion that build it and they will come and put it on the shelf, it'll sell itself, that was a false premise. And I think, we and everyone else in the category proved that wrong the hard way. So demand is something that needs to be created day in and day out. We need to be on weekly shopping lists. And that's just the way it is. And by the way, that's not a new concept for food. Food companies do it all the time. Now, if you look at just a really important point on food service, 45,000 food service locations. We're number 1 in food service. Very proud of that. But there's 1.5 million. So again, great start, right? But we're in first gear, so we got to keep going. And that's what keeps me up at night, the opportunity, not the naysayers, the cynics, or the category. But within food service, tomorrow we celebrate 5 years with White Castle, 4 years Burger King, 4 years Starbucks. So we have these anchor wonderful accounts, and we've had them for years. And there's no really sign of slowing down or stopping. So, and we have lots of independent ones, of course, but we're really proud of these big anchor accounts that we've had for multi-year relationships, which is testimony, right, to performance and execution.
So in the retail sector, plant-based meat has placement in the frozen aisle. It's got placement in the produce set, in the meat case, which many people thought would really open up the market to a new set of consumers. But, we're also seeing kind of declining sales in the meat case in particular. Does it deliver the kind of turns and velocity that retailers need, to justify its presence there? Are some of them getting cold feet? Can you speak a bit to merchandising? When you go into stores and you look for your product, what do you see?
Sure. Look, and that's another thing we can't be defensive about, right? I mean, we have to own some things here, right? I think when plant-based came out, we didn't position it correctly. It was against something instead of for something. It's against the meat industry. No, it's not. And I think placement, let's talk about placement. It's all over the place, not in a good way. So it's, if you think about 700 TDPs, divide by 100, you have an average of 7 SKUs on shelf, 8 SKUs on shelf. Divide between frozen and refrigerated. Within frozen, it could be in the meat aisle in frozen, or it could be in a vegan section, or it could be in both. So you could actually be in 3 different locations of the store. Now, if you wanted to be wide-eyed and optimistic about it, you'd be like, wow, we're in 3 parts of the store. It's not good. People don't know where to find it. We have a shelf invisibility problem. And it's not just impossible. This is a category thing. And so I think it's been confused. We like it in refrigerated, fresh, right there next to animal burgers. We like that. And we do quite well. And we have the velocities to keep it there, even though they're, declining. But a lot of that declining is from a lot of confusion and different products being in there that don't have the same performance level as we do. We like it in frozen a lot too, because frozen is up. Frozen purchases with consumers is up. So it's nice to be in an area that you have a tailwind. But that's bifurcating our brand, right? So you have beef and frozen and you have beef and fresh, and you don't have tremendous scale in either section. So you may only have a couple SKUs in each section.
So what's the solution to this problem?
Listen, first thing, my solution is more distribution. We should have 5,000 TDPs, so we should have 50 SKUs on shelf, right? Not 707. So the first thing is get that shelf block so that you're visible, that you're like a beacon where you can be seen. And I did a lot of that work in my previous job. So, and that's doable work. It's hard. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I think plant-based and impossible merits and warrants more distribution, right? And with that distribution will become bigger blocks. The other thing is we're working on new packaging that I think will be much more breakthrough, much more visible, much more delicious, pop much more on shelf. And so that's another thing we're doing. And then we're working on feature display, merchandising, point of sale materials that will help that journey. And look, Elaine, some of these things sound so basic, but the category is so new and impossible so new at retail. We didn't have a robust retail execution team and program. Haven't really been doing the nuts and bolts, brass tacks work on this. And it's all doable, right? There's food companies that do this day in, day out, and they've been doing it for 20, 30 years.
I mean, so what does this mean in practice? You said in the past to me that Impossible Foods is transitioning from a tech company to a tech-enabled food company. What does that mean in practice in terms of what you've been instituting in terms of the org chart, your resource allocation, and how you're moving this to more of a food company, I guess, than a tech company?
It's a great question, Elaine. Look, I think, I said we're a tech-enabled food company, so we'll innovate like a tech company, but we're going to operate like a food company. So this is all about delivering, your products at a very high quality level, on time and in full, and make sure your OTIF is where it needs to be. And it's all about, and I've said this tons of times, you and I have talked over the years, the battles won or lost at the store on the shelf. So it's about building out a retail execution team. It's about getting more feature, getting more display, getting more merchandising, really going at point of sale material in a big way, lower funnel stuff. At the same time, we're going to do marketing campaigns, right, to build that awareness. We only have 50% awareness, 85% of the country hasn't heard of us. But the focus at Impossible is demand creation. I want to be very clear about that. We have chicken, beef, and pork, and we have over 40 SKUs. We have breakfast, lunch, dinner, chicken, beef, pork, and 40 SKUs. So we're going to continue to improve the SKUs. So we're not going to go iPhone 14, but you could see a 3.0 and a 4.0 and a 5.0 version of our food, each time improving taste, texture, flavor, and nutrition, right? So we're not going to go into new categories. We're focused on the categories we're in, because, by the way, chicken, beef, pork is basically a $1.5 trillion market. But we're going to make those products, they are good products. It's another thing we at Impossible and this industry needs to not be defensive about. We have good products. We don't have great products yet. There is room to improve the products, and it's okay to admit it. And so we're going to continuously improve those products. We're going to do upper funnel marketing for awareness, and we're going to do a lot of lower funnel store tactical executions that were more visible. And again, that combination should drive demand. But you asked me my allocation of time, resources, money, demand creation, front end of the business.
Yeah. When it comes to the actual products, though, you've said to me in the past, Impossible products are the best on the market, but they still need work. in what respect? I mean, what would make them meatier? Is it the smell, the texture, the cooking experience? And again, how meaningful are differences between your products at Impossible and all of these other products on the market? They generally have the same kind of ingredients. They're using extruded soy or pea protein. There's obviously some fungi-based products, but is your heme protein a significant point of difference? How much better in your view are your products than the competitors? Are there meaningful differences? And what more work do you need to do?
Yeah, look, listen, I think there is a difference. I mean, 8 out of 10 people will tell you our products taste better than anything in the market. Look, there's the protein source, we're soy. Other people use pea and other protein sources. So that's the first thing. And yes, heme is a big differentiator. It's delivering that color. It's delivering that sizzle. It's delivering a lot of iron. In the end of the day, it's, the meat industry's called this stuff processed and fake and faux. I mean, you're delivering, 25% less saturated fat, 0 cholesterol. You're delivering good source of protein, iron, fiber, and vitamin B, and no animal hormones. So, so what differentiates us? Sure, it's our recipe. Sure, it's our brand. Sure, it's our taste and flavor. And then heme gives you that sensory, it looks like red meat. It sizzles like red meat. It has a red meat aroma. It gives a sensory to the product, which is for sure a differentiator. We launched Indulgent, right, Elaine, which is our best burger yet. And we tweaked the formula and we added some fat to it, right? And it performs the best against the animal over any other burger we have.
Yeah.
And it's 1/3 of a pound, not 1/4 of a pound. So it's a meatier, beefier, juicier burger. So we're playing around with that. I said we would make the base burger better. And there's a lot of R&D work that needs to go in there. And we have to look at the ingredients and replace ingredients and look at oils and fats. And I also want to simplify the ingredient label on that. So there's the base work. And then we launched a light burger, which is 50% less saturated fat. It's almost like a fitness burger. And it has less sodium. So, and there's people that want that, right? If it's Friday night and I've had a rough week and I want to have a beer or a big glass of red wine, I'm going that Indulgent burger. It's got a little bit more fat. It's thicker, juicier. And by the way, that came from requests from food service, where a lot of these independent restaurants said, look, we have these great burger builds and we're charging a good amount of money for them. The quarter pounder was getting lost in the build. So can you make me something bigger, juicier, maybe a little bit more premium? Because people are not going out to restaurants throwing down a bunch of money for health or to compromise, or you know what I mean? So
just talking about focus, I mean, a couple of years ago, Impossible teased alt milk, eggs, and other products, which you haven't sort of talked about since you joined last year. Were these a kind of costly distraction? They're on the back burner, or are you still working on these and plan to commercialize these, anytime in the near future?
Yes, and no.
Okay.
They're costly distractions. We're not focused on them. And no, we don't have plans to pursue them in the future. We're focused on the chicken, beef, pork, our current 40 SKUs. Like I said, the current SKUs can be better. They also can be better distributed, and we can make more people aware of them.
So when it comes to the messaging that seems to resonate, you've got a background in advertising. There's been some stuff in the media lately about whether we need a got milk kind of campaign for plant-based meat. Can you speak a little bit to that, but also what messaging seems to resonate with consumers? It seems that, environmental messaging isn't maybe getting through or isn't sufficiently motivating. The health message, what kind of messaging resonates, and what is the best way to cut through in this market?
It's a great question. It's a tricky one, to be honest with you. Look, like I said this earlier, I think the category was launched in maybe not the best possible way. It was launched being against the cattle industry, and no one wants a civil war in America. And it was against things, not for things. And we kind of insulted the very people we wanted to have try our product, which are meat eaters. The competition is not the $7.5 billion plant-based category. That's Walmart. Like, the competition is the 1.4 trillion animal industry. And you don't vilify people, you don't judge people, you don't insult people, you invite people to try your products. And so this became political a little bit, if I'm being honest, and it became bi-coastal, elitist, and academic and all that stuff. We need to tone all that down. This is business. We are making good food. We want to make it available to everyone. So it's made for everyone. It's for everyone. We want to make it available to everyone. And the way to do that is invite, not insult, the right eye, not the wrong eye. And, look, and I think this is all incredibly doable. We got to tone down the rhetoric. It's not zealot stuff. This is, we're making good food and we want people to try it and incorporate it into their diet. And oh, by the way, in doing so, yes, you'll kill less animals. And yes, you'll save more trees and water and avoid more GHG. Answer your question. The upper funnel broad way to build the brand and drive demand is not through climate change messaging. Just there's not enough mass people that care right now.
Yes.
We shouldn't be defensive about that either. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to make a delicious product where you don't feel like you're compromising to the animal product. And I want it to be super good for you because people care about themselves. Listen, if my health isn't good, the last thing I care about is the planet's health. When I first started, everyone was like, price. We took price, volume. Beyond, you saw in the earnings report, they took price, didn't see volume. It's about value, and it's about our value proposition, which first has to start with delicious food, no compromise. It's like I joke around. It's like, don't mess with my freaking burger, right? All I got. I had a rough week. The kids were crazy, and my boss is mean, and I'm just trying to have a burger and a beer, and you're trying to like get all political on me, right? Let's just make a great burger that people will enjoy. If you want to put cheese on it, put cheese on it. However you want, have it your way. Is whatever it's going to take to get people to eat more. And by the way, it's not a binary black and white thing, right? When you look in fridges, they have oat milk and dairy milk. They have animal beef and they have Impossible beef. So if you have 5 burgers a month and one became plant-based, the category will grow 100% for the next 5 years. That's the scale of this. So this is about inviting people to try and incorporate. It's not about you better only eat plant-based meat, and if you don't care and you don't get it. That is nonsense. It's absolute utter nonsense. It doesn't
But just going
work.
back to my question about though the amount of money that you've raised. I mean, how much money has the company raised, and are you looking to an IPO? Is that the goal? What is the exit strategy? I guess for your
I
investors.
can't disclose how much we raised. We've raised a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no question about that. And we're well capitalized. So our balance sheet is strong. So we do not need to go public right now. And thankfully so, because the markets aren't the best.
Yes.
There are a lot of companies that are not in our position where they have to raise. We don't have to fundraise right now, and we don't have to have any liquidity event right now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get the fundamentals of the business right. We're going to focus on demand creation. We're going to focus on making our products better. We're going to focus on more distribution and more awareness. And there'll come a time, right, where we're going to go for a liquidity event. It is not imminent.
Yes.
But these things take time to move. So we're focused on the business and executing the fundamentals, which will prepare us for maximum value event. I'll call it right now, some type of liquidity event.
I mean, just stepping back, I want to address the question everyone seems to be asking. I mean, this came up in the Beyond Meat's latest earnings call. I think one of the analysts said, is it possible that Beyond Meat isn't a $1 billion revenue company? In fact, it could be just a solid $400 million company. I mean, and along the lines of, have we already reached peak alt meat, and is the addressable market just not as big as we thought? I mean, you've talked about going after the $1 trillion meat industry, but is it perhaps possible that we've reached a kind of ceiling, a bit like the kombucha market. It's got its loyalists, but it kind of reached its ceiling, and then beyond that, there wasn't any mileage.
By the way, Elaine, it's a great kombucha or a burger.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, again, I just go back to, and I don't think it's 400 million. I think it's billions and billions and billions if it's packaged and positioned right. Right? I was at Yankee Stadium a month and a half ago, and I had a burger and a beer. I had an Impossible Burger. This is what, I was in Nebraska, and I had an Impossible sausage sandwich, right? I was in Indiana 4 months ago and starving, driving to a factory, and I was able to stop by a Burger King and nail a Whopper. It was an Impossible Whopper. So look, the answer lies in our behavior and our behavior. So all these CEOs in the plant-based, and this is a call to arms for everyone in this industry. This is not religion. It's not a zealot thing. It's not rhetoric. We want to make food for everyone. We want to package and position it and make it available for everyone. And it should show up in country fairs, and it should show up at baseball stadiums and football tailgates. And the more we make this accessible, and the more we make it available for everyone, the bigger this market's going to be. What's undeniable is these are meat replacement products, and the meat industry is 1.5 trillion. So it's really up to us how big this gets. I believe that the way this was packaged and positioned in the beginning was a self-fulfilling prophecy, limiting its appeal. And it actually narrowed the aperture versus widened it. And that's all changeable, and it's all reversible. So let's make things like chicken nuggets and chicken patties and meatballs. I mean, meatball, right? We're not talking about kombucha. And let's make burgers, and let's put them in places that people want to eat them, and let people eat them the way they want to eat them. And then it'll become part of people's lives and part of their habitual behavior. And when that happens, this thing exponentially grows. But we can't be overly prescriptive. We can't be judgmental. And we got to dial back the rhetoric. And it's gonna happen, Elaine. And so it's gonna happen because of personal health. It'll happen because of animal welfare. It'll happen because of planet health, or it'll happen just because there's not enough animal products to feed the world's population. But it's gonna go more and more plant-based. You and I could debate till the cows come home, pun intended, how long that's gonna take, what are the growth rates, what markets are gonna move faster. What we can't debate is the world's moving in that direction. It's inevitable. But what we can do as an industry is help it move as fast as possible by packaging, positioning, and making this food more available and accessible. I firmly believe that. And if we do that, it's not $400 million. It's $400 billion.
Fair enough. Well, on that positive note, thank you so much for joining us, Peter, and appreciate your time.
Thanks, Elaine. Good to see you.
Thank you.